Everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we have some really exciting news. We have Kelly and Marshall from CampAddict.com to join us. And so we are going to talk about Starlink satellite internet. First off, I'll just tell you guys, so this is something that there's been a lot of chatter with this about Starlink over the last several years, but it has increased the last couple months or so.
Yeah, really has exploded.
It really has. It's exploded. It's getting more. They're actually allowing roaming now, I think.
Yeah.
So there's a bunch of cool things that are coming up. And so we're going to go just do a real quick review to see how you guys got your Starlink, what process it is, and so forth that it went through. I do want to say a quick disclaimer. This stuff is constantly changing. If you're watching this video later, you definitely want to make sure that you go to the Starlink website or go onto the numerous forums that are out there, because they will have the latest information. But this is going to be very timely because at least you'll have an introduction to what process it takes to get one of these beautiful little satellite things. So much smaller than the huge HughesNet ones that cost a fortune. Yeah. So guys, thanks for sharing your knowledge and your information.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, we literally just got this the day before we came on this trip, so we are full of knowledge about it.
Well, how did you first hear about Starlink? Any idea?
Oh gosh, well actually probably a couple of years back. I don't recall how I heard about it, but I know we both had heard about it, and we're very excited because being full-time boondockers, we realized that obviously this is going to give us a whole new swath of areas that we can stay where we have to work, so we need cell service. There's been places where we can't go because we can't work, and we don't want to take a week off just to visit a place. So
yeah, and this thing, just to kind of add to that, the fact that the whole point of Starlink when it first was brought out is that it was to replace like the landlines and cell service. It's for rural areas that they don't have these, like the DSLs and
Correct.
things like that.
Right, right. So yeah, we're just an extension of that.
So tell me the process of ordering it. Like, how was it going through the ordering process? Because you have to have like an address of some sort. So tell me about that.
Right. So you have to have a service address that has availability.
Okay.
So it suddenly became available,
Okay.
and we decided to pull the trigger. So we weren't on a list for years like some people have been.
That's right. Because yeah, some people are on like a 2-year list or something.
And
like
are
that.
still waiting.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're still waiting. We just happened to, our home address came available.
Tell me, because a lot of our listeners out there are going to be nomads. So what about for them? Because they aren't going to necessarily be at their mailing address, or like, how does that all work out?
So you have two addresses. You've got a service address and you have a shipping address.
Okay.
You need to find a place in the United States that has availability that you can use as a service address. That can be different than your shipping address.
Oh, okay.
Then you enter a shipping address where you're actually currently at, or can receive packages.
Okay.
They ship via FedEx, so...
Okay, so you have to find a FedEx store or something like that.
Yeah, or
Okay.
a friend that
Friend's
you
address.
can address, or
Okay.
A campground even.
Or
They
yeah,
let
if
you
you
ship
happen-
to a campground.
if you happen to be staying at a campground,
Yeah.
you can
Excellent.
ship to a campground.
Okay.
But yeah, but the shipping address can be different than the service address,
Yep.
and the service address is the one that could be a little difficult to find an open area where
Okay.
they're still allowing new Starlink
Okay.
accounts.
Oh, all of the ones that are sent out now will be shipped with the new firmware, so you will be able to immediately roam just as we did.
So you don't even have to set up that first time at your residential or your
Service
the
address.
service address. So you don't even have to be physically there. You did before, but now you don't.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
How was the website to navigate? Is it Starlink.com or what is it?
Starlink.com.
Oh, that's simple
They
enough.
couldn't have made it easier. I mean,
Okay.
it was just
Yeah, right on the homepage of Starlink, there's a box where you put an address
Okay.
to start the order. You enter the address.
when you put in your address, it tells you if it's available at your address.
Okay.
And then it is yes or no, and it was yes for us. So then we
Oh.
went ahead and just filled out name, address, all that, and boom, it arrived 2 days later.
So in theory, I could look at my residential address. I could see if there's an open cell, and then I could grab that, have it shipped to a completely different address.
Yep.
And if my cell wasn't open in my residential address, I could really use a friend's, right? Because you actually had a friend of yours use your address,
Mhm.
and it's not like they checked anything for that, right?
No.
No, just as long as there's availability in that cell.
Okay.
I don't know that they care how many people are using the exact same address.
Okay.
It's like cell wide that they're looking at numbers rather than address specific.
So I keep on hearing this word cell. Do you have any idea how big a cell is, or is that?
I don't.
Yeah, okay.
Starlink or SpaceX has broken up the world into squares.
Okay.
And I don't know how big they are, but they're saying that each
Yeah.
square has so many
availability.
accounts.
All right, and so that's the way that you can order it. So then once you get it to that FedEx guy, you're like, yes, come to me, Starlink, satellite. Thank you, Elon. So once you get it out of the box, what was that like? Was it difficult? Do you have to be real tech savvy? Because it seems like it might be super difficult for my brain. Tell me about this.
No, it's really simple. So there are two main pieces of equipment. There's the dish itself,
Okay.
and then there is a router,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's a cable, a 75-foot long cable that runs between the dish and the router.
Okay.
So you make sure it's plugged into the dish side, you make sure it's plugged into the router side.
Okay.
Then the router itself has a power cable, so make sure that cable's plugged in and that goes into a 120-volt outlet.
Okay. And so as long as you have an inverter or
Right. Mm-hmm.
Jackery or something like that, you should be fine. You can't plug it into 12 volt at this point.
Not at this point.
Okay. Maybe later.
So you plug in two cables,
Okay. I'm with you
And-
so far. I
and-
think
Yeah,
I can
right.
do this.
and
All right.
then you plug the dish into the tripod that comes with the basic kit.
Okay.
Set it outside where it has an unobstructed view of the sky.
Okay.
You power it on. The router boots up. Once the router boots up, the dish will go flat as
Okay.
it's looking to the sky to figure out where the satellites are.
Mm-hmm.
And so the dish is handling all its pointing by itself. You do not help it. You just
Ooh.
hands off, and it takes care of everything. You have to download an app. They have it for Android and iOS.
Okay. Cool.
Once you have the app installed, then you connect to the Starlink's Wi-Fi
Okay. Which is
network.
on your router.
Router, right?
Okay.
And it's literally called Starlink.
Okay. So you can't get that confused
Yeah.
so far.
Yeah.
I'm with you so far.
The Wi-Fi network is called Starlink. You log onto that. As soon as you log onto that, it has you rename the network,
Okay.
enter a password.
Mm-hmm.
So and then once you do that, it opens up the app. It tells you it runs through the setup, which is basically you're waiting for the dish to identify where the satellites are.
Okay.
In this part of the world, it will then tilt it to the north. So this is now facing to the north,
Okay.
and it brings itself online. Couldn't be simpler. I mean, you don't
have to like
you don't have to
it,
aim or anything.
Oh,
No, you
that's-
just set it out on the ground. As long as it has a unobstructed view of the sky, it handles everything for
And I
you.
didn't expect it to move, so I was super excited when I saw it. I was like, "Whoa, what is it doing?" I didn't know that was part of it, but yeah, it does it by itself. It's really cool.
Yeah, because I've heard about previous. I think it was a HughesNet or one of the
you
other
have to
previous.
aim 'em.
You have to aim it precisely, and if anything happens. But that's nice that this is just all automated.
Yep.
And so there are mechanisms in here that are moving things around.
Yep.
And, okay. All right. Now you did mention an unobstructed view. So that is one of the caveats with this system, right? Is that you do have to have an open line to the sky. So
Right.
keep that in mind.
Right.
Tell me a little bit more about that if you know anything.
So you can't have a bunch of trees around. I mean, there is a tree right here, and believe it or not, Starlink is seeing this tree. On the app, after 12 hours, it will show you what it sees if it sees any obstructions.
Okay.
And right on the edge of the little dome that it paints,
Uh-huh.
you'll see a little bit of red because of this tree, but it's not enough to
Okay.
knock it out of service. But yeah,
So you could move it over like 4 feet this way.
yeah, exactly, and
Okay.
it'd be fine.
Okay.
But yeah, you can't be in a forest with a canopy of trees shooting up. That just doesn't work because the signal does not go through foliage,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Okay, so folks out there, keep that in mind that if you are going to end up with something like this, you do have to have an open view of the sky. Now, we were talking earlier that a lot of times we spend our summers in the high mountains in Colorado or California, things like that. So probably not an issue in those areas. But if you were in a very shady area, like in the middle of the trees and forest in Oregon, that could present a problem.
Yes,
At this point.
at this
Yeah.
point.
At this point, that may change in the future. Again, you kind of want to do your due diligence. Check it out. Go to Starlink. See, they might make improvements someday so that it gets more narrow, but at this point, it's a wider swath.
I think as they add more satellites, then the focus beam that you have to have will be narrower.
Okay.
I think.
Okay,
I don't know.
that would make sense. So, but again, that could be a year, 2 years down the line. We don't know. This is still pretty new technology, so it's been around for not a super long time, but they went through beta testers, and so they keep on making iterations, and they've already gone through 2 or 3 different variations of this. There was the dishy, the round one, now it's a square one, and they've made improvements on it, so that's huge.
Yeah, it uses less power and it's physically smaller.
That's a great segue into what kind of power usage are we expecting from this?
So according to the jackery that we're using to power this,
Okay.
it's showing the output of in watts, and it's between 40 and 50 watts for this system
Okay.
continuously. So yeah, it does use a fair amount of power,
Okay.
but you can turn it off at night when
True.
you're sleeping.
Okay.
We've been leaving it on just because I've been trying to figure out if the electric setup that we have can power all the things, including this, and this is definitely the largest power draw.
Okay.
But yeah, about 40 to 50 watts.
Okay.
And that's my understanding is that's about half of what the old dish was.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot better than it was because there were some heating elements in here, I think, for de-icing.
Yeah.
And so it was heating up all the time.
Cats were laying on it.
And this
Yeah.
one, this one has heating elements as well, but on the app, it's got an option where you can turn it off.
Oh.
So here in Arizona, I've got it turned off, and I think it's got 3 options: turn off, on all the time, and detect if you need to have it on, sort of a thing.
Okay. For people in northern climes or maybe
Right.
icy things. For
Okay.
me personally, that might be a little bit too much of electricity for me because my battery bank, I only have about 130 amp hours usable. So that would be taking up a good chunk of that, 25% of it. So this may not work for me, but I think for a lot of people with bigger battery banks, better solar systems, it could work out really well.
Yep.
What does this set you back? Everybody's going to want to know the price of this.
So the
current
price,
rate.
the current rate is
$5.99 for the dish.
$5.99 for dish plus
Okay.
shipping and
Which comes up
tax.
to like 80 extra something.
670, 680 bucks.
Probably,
maybe.
yeah.
Okay.
And then service is now $110 a month
Okay.
for unlimited.
Okay, so that is unlimited. So that seems expensive, like just from the get-go.
Yep.
But when I start, because that's what I initially thought, but then I started thinking about it, and if you buy a hotspot and you pay the service for that, you're suddenly not in that you're constrained by the cell towers at that
Right.
point. So, because I don't know, Jetpack's probably $100 or $200 just to buy the device
Yep.
if you don't have one,
Yep.
and then the service probably $100 a month for a lot of them.
Yeah.
Boost is like $400, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the,
Like,
the,
if you
the
needed
booster.
a boost.
Yep.
Yeah, the service itself is very comparable to an unlimited cell
Yeah.
data plan.
And this is truly unlimited. They don't cap you
Oh,
Right.
that's true.
so far at all. There's 0 cap. And speeds have been astounding
Yeah.
compared to what we're used to having.
And so you're paying a little bit more for the equipment up front, but what that's
Mhm.
giving you is the freedom to literally go anywhere.
Anywhere.
That's
Yep.
true.
Where-
With amazing speeds.
With
we
amazing
get
speeds.
regularly at least 130 Mbps.
Okay.
Down. Yeah.
Up, not so great, but still better than what we've had. I'd say it's like 7 to 9.
Which is comparable to cell
even-
plans, I feel like.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
sometimes I'll see 20 up, but yeah, up's a little bit of a disappointment. But
Okay.
down is, unless you're uploading a bunch of YouTube videos,
Uh,
it's down that you're really using.
And it's still probably better than what you have.
Okay.
But
What we
again, I
had.
can't stress this enough. It gives you the freedom to go anywhere. There are
Yeah.
so many
True.
cool places, especially say Colorado,
mhm.
where the cell service is non-existent,
Yep.
and we just haven't been able to travel in these places because we have to have internet to work,
Mhm.
and now we have the ability to go these places.
Well, even in campgrounds, a lot of people have all kinds of problems in campgrounds. Cellular service towers are taken over, and
Overloaded.
they don't
Yeah.
have good service wherever they are
Yep.
with whatever they're.
Quartzite's a prime example of that. Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah, Quartzite during the big RV tent show and the RTR and so forth, those numbers just crash because the towers are overloaded. You
And
won't
people
have
don't
that
go
with
because
this.
they can't
Right.
work, and a lot of us work on the road.
Yep.
So this is a game changer.
Well worth
I'm
it.
so excited.
Well worth it if you have the need.
Yeah. Now, let's say you were in a campground. Someone could just walk away with this thing, right?
Yeah.
So,
Correct.
what other ways can you mount it besides putting it out in an open field? What are some other options?
So SpaceX, Starlink, sells a pole adapter.
Oh,
So you can mount it on a pole. I have a ladder in the back of my RV, so I
Mhm.
could strap a pole to the ladder and then mount this on top of the pole. So
Okay.
it's up and out of the way, and
Oh.
it's a lot more difficult to
to steal.
steal. So that would be the way that I would see most RVers doing a mount to
And
some
you-
sort of pole.
And you could potentially get better reception if you're higher up as well.
Right, yeah, you could
Okay.
potentially have
Yeah,
a clear
less
view of the
obstruction.
sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know if it's a little out of my price range for me personally, but I also don't need internet like a lot of people like you, remote workers, things that need that internet every single day and consistent. That is a good investment for someone like you guys.
Yep.
I mean, it's even good for our house. For home.
Yeah, for people that work from the road, this is a very good investment. It does open up so many more places that you can camp and be. And I mean, myself, I can't wait to go to Mexico and check this out. So you have a question, Kelly?
I do. I have another question or another statement, maybe.
Yeah.
You don't have to do a contract either, do you?
No, it's month to month.
It's month to month. So say we're on the road 6 months out of the year and only need it 6 months. Boom, you can stop it whenever you're not on the road.
In the first 30 days, you can return it for full refund.
Oh, nice.
In the first 6 months, I believe it is, you can send it back and they'll give you $200 back.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you can't find someone else to sell it to.
Which you probably can.
You probably can.
Yeah.
So, well, this is super cool. Anything else that we missed about this cool little?
No, just, I mean, if you think about it, you're getting internet from the sky, from space, so you think it'd be really difficult to set up. I can't stress enough that it's dirt simple to set up. They handle all the tough stuff for you, so don't worry about that.
So even for a Luddite like me,
even you, Brian,
Excellent.
you can do it.
That's great. So, but again, like you said, it's very simple to set up.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Doesn't take a big brain. No big brain here. So I think that's really good.
Yep, exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
So, well, guys, what did you think of the new Starlink? I mean, give us your opinion. Anyone out there, do you guys have experience with maybe the Starlink satellite system or the old satellite systems like HughesNet and some of those other ones? Please let us know in the comments below. But guys, thank you so much for joining and helping us through and giving us a little tour of your cool little toy. And for all of you guys out there, we hope that you enjoyed today's video. Hopefully it was informative. In the meantime, please subscribe to the channel, give us a big thumbs up, and we'll see you guys all down the road.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.